Morning folks, it's the 32nd visit on the 27th of September. I thought to myself, blimey, there's quite a big bee flying around over there, but turns out it's just a red kite. But yeah, folks get all excited about the reintroductions of birds of prey like that, but they seem to be quite commonplace around here. Anyway, we'll zoom right back out and have a look at these girls. Hang on. Right, there we go. Normal setting. Yeah, a lot of pollen coming in. A lot of activity. It's a reasonably sunny day, sunny and cloud, but oh, there's a drone there. Interesting. So that'll be interesting to see what's going on in there. Masses of pollen going in there. They're all quite excited. I'll just flick my hood up before I go across the flight line, or I might get bombarded. I'd rather they bounced off. There you are, look, there's plenty of pollen going in there. Bright yellow. And the same again there, so they're all finding the same stuff. Luckily, very little wasp activity by the look of it, so that maybe the jasper season's, look at that lot, the jasper season's over. Or they've just given up. No, saying that, there's a wasp just landed on me. Anyway, very quick visit today. That one was expanding quite a lot, and got to check, make sure no queen cells. If there are, check we've got a queen and then knock them down. And I might try and get the supers off these, because you know we're at the end of September now. Really ought to be starting to backfill this hive with, or all the hives with, sugar syrup to stop them, you know, expanding any further. We want them to fill up the whole hive now with food for the winter rather than babies. But you know, I'm not gonna rush things too much. You kind of have to follow the season rather than a date. So it is a bit of an observational game. Anyway, let's just dive in and see what's happening. I wondered if you might get a bit better view if you were to the side of the colony. So again, just a couple of puffs of smoke. One of those actually went in the hive. While that's percolating, we'll see what the food situation is. So they're not up here really bothering with this stuff. So they are settling down for the winter, I think. You know, if this super is empty here, we might put a box in, a separator in there and try and get them out of it. But let's have a quick look. Oh no, there's a fair bit in here. Yeah, and they're putting some bridge comb in now. So there has been a honey flow by the look of it, which is either ivy or something, don't know. But the crucial thing is, what are they doing with this nest? So what we might be able to do is to you know, take that super off next weekend. I think I'm just going to have to go for it because I'm going to run out of time, and the weather, as we all know, can change on a dime, or a threepenny bit, as they used to say in the UK. That was a wax moth larvae. Looks like they are getting pretty well set up for the winter. That one's full. That one's stored bee bread. This one's full. So it might be that we can just shift that super out over there somewhere and get them to rob it out and bring it all in here to backfill this, and they won't bother too much with syrup. So this was the edge of the nest, and it was expanding last time. But now they're filling this up with honey, you see, so, or syrup I should say, or something. So that's kind of good, really. Yeah, there, that was that nest she was expanding. You can see all the capped brood there. And there it is again. So they've sort of stopped. They haven't gone any further, which is good. But we do just need to check. All right. Unusual for this lot. They've been quiet all year and now they're going for it, but it is probably just the time of year. Yeah, and they're starting to backfill that, which is an indication they know that the season's coming to an end, but she might start laying in there again. Now we're getting some pollen, but it does smell of ivy honey in here. I know you can't smell it, but it does smell of that. It has a particular odour to it. Lots of pollen coming in there. Lots of babies waiting to be born, which is excellent on that frame there. So when they're born, we could almost afford for them to bung it up. So that will be next weekend now. There's another frame there, lovely. Once they're all born out, or hatched out. So there was the makings of a cell here, right on the edge, but there's nothing in it. So I think they've given up that campaign, or I hope they have. And there she is, right in the bottom corner there. Hopefully you can see her. There she is, right in the middle of the camera. I can see the camera now, you see, so you know, she's still plodding along. So we've got a queen and no queen cells. We'll just check one more frame at the front here just to see what their intentions are. And yeah, they're just filling it up with grub. So that's pretty much it for that hive. So they probably got all excited that there was a honey flow, and it was the ivy which has now stopped. So once we get those other two frames hatched out, and she might just lay in there, we'll start getting them next week with, you know, dropping them down into one box, because you can see here there isn't a huge colony in here now. So they are naturally starting to pare back. One of my concerns always is, oh, nearly got that wasp there, is trying to get too many bees into too small a hive. They feel all bunched up. Oops, I dropped them on the floor. They feel all bunched up, and then they panic and think, oh, we better swarm, and there's no drones. Well, we saw one on the front of the hive, but that's it. So that's it really for them. Oh, I'll try and get this wasp. Yeah, got him. There you go. Bye. I'm just going to have a quick check in here and see on the number of bees. So there are quite a few bees in here. If we push them down, you know, they would start to fill that box up. And bearing in mind there'll be a few more next week. Might just put it off one more week. I mean, it's late to start feeding in October, I have to say. And there's one bee there, look, there she is, investigating this pot for some liquid food. But they've slowed right down on this, and that is almost unoccupied. So that's one hive. Right, we'll walk round to the other side and have a look at that one. Right. Obstacle course overcome. Again, see there, they've just left all this. This is one of the dangers of feeding solids. Once they go off the solids, there's another wax moth gone. I'm going to put this down in the hive, this protein patty. See if they go for that. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, solid foods. Once they go off solid foods, it might be worth starting it. There's 2 bees in there, and there's probably a third of that left. It might be worth starting them on some syrup, or stealing the supers so that they forces them to jam the other bit full. Yeah, that's got a lot in it. So there was a honey flow last week. But clearly I can't harvest that now because it's got sugar syrup in it, or it might be mixed up with sugar syrup. I don't know, and it costs money to get it tested, so if they don't rob it out when I move the super, I shall just spin it out and then use it as food. What am I doing? Use it as food to mix like I'm doing now, pouring over like this to save on syrup costs. Yeah, that was an ivy honey flow. You can smell it. It's absolutely pungent, and I'm glad actually that I've caught it and they haven't stored it too much in the nest. So there's a solid frame of grub ready for the winter, pretty much. Well, I just want to have a quick dive in the hive. Two solid frames, food, here they come. So I don't think this is a genetics thing, I think it's a time of year issue. They don't like being disturbed at this time of the year, and like I said last week, quite a few beekeepers wouldn't be doing this now. They'd just stop. See that? That is an old nest frame filled up with sugar syrup. So if they get a bit mardy, it's because it's cool, and because they're settling down for the winter. They don't like being invaded. Not a lot going on in there. So we're on to what was the nest last week. My hood keep getting in the way. Sorry about that. Yeah, a little bit of nest there, lots of pollen stored. And again, backfilling what was nest with syrup. So that is still accurate, that drawing pin. I mean, another few degrees lower and I wouldn't be able to get this hive apart, or I'd be really struggling. There are, nice frame of brood there waiting to be hatched out. They are starting to backfill that a little bit. So you really do have to observe what they're doing in terms of the seasons. Rather than picking a date and sticking to it, saying no, I need to be fed and done by September. You know, you're probably not wrong on that, but lovely slab of brood there waiting to be hatched. Perfect. So there's 3 frames there, like the one next door. And if we've had an ivy flow and it's stopped, it might be that there's a bit of robbing pressure here. Oh, there's an empty frame here, so she probably will be on here somewhere. Is she still laying? Yeah, there are some grubs this side, but not on this other side. So that's an empty brood frame, and the other side to it has got some grubs growing. You can just see them at the bottom. There she is. Lovely queen. It says, are you seeing that? I don't know. Yeah, there she is, right in the middle. So 2 lovely frames there, and some grubs at the bottom of that frame. I'm just going to take out the frame next door here just to see what's on it, really, just out of curiosity. And that drone brood frame is just full of stores. Yeah, so this is just all pollen now. So that's right bang on the edge of the nest, bang in order. They are getting a bit grumpy now. Right, let's see if we can hoof the whole lot forward. Now these have been quiet as mice all year, and now they're starting to bash me, so I think this is robbing or the time of year. I'm not worried about genetics at this stage, unlike the other hooligans at the other apiary. And I'll probably leave all the scraping activity. I'm going to put this down here and see if they go for it a little bit more when it's down here. Yeah, they didn't like that for some reason. Alright, settle down. think it's robbing pressure because there aren't many wasps. That is very full, so I'm glad I did that. That was a good move this year. Leaving that on. It's kept it all out of the nest box and kept her laying in a more natural way. Right, they're done. Move on to these other hooligans next door. I'll even do it all in one video clip. It's amazing. Oh, wrong way. Let's lift this up, fiddle around with the stand a bit. There you go. I think that's going to do it. Just go and get my... So make sure you've got a lot of smoke coming out. You know, that the smoke is actually going. And then you just need a couple of puffs. Like the magic dragon. Like that will do. Have a quick look at the food situation here. So this, yeah, there's a tiny little bit in there, and there's about a third in there again, so that is pretty rank. That's going to go now, because it will just attract wax moths. I'll just leave them with what they've got. I mean, they are still on it. You can see them here, but yeah, detritus and... Is that a wax moth? Yeah, that was probably a larvae there. I mean, you are in the territory of sort of attracting them now. I'm going to just shut this door a little bit because it's quite big. Right, so I don't need to go and get any food from the van. We're just going to inspect these for queen. That one's reasonably full as well. So they've probably started to expand with that ivy nectar flow. And then it's stalled, so they've stalled. Basically, that is what's happened, or what has happened. This is a very small colony now. Look, you can see how much they naturally pair back towards the winter months. You know, they kind of tell you what the deal is, really. You don't, you know, I know I'm documenting this on film, but you can kind of observe it in real time. You don't need to be a brain surgeon or anything, you just need to observe what you're looking at. They are full frame of brood ready for food ready for the winter. Alright, so I think we're out of swarming risk. Where did that wasp go? Come out again. Did anyone see that? A wasp flew in there on the side of the frame, and then I think it came out again. Yeah, another frame. Hooked up with food. So the deal is with these, the weather's giving them the message to close down with the shorter nights and days and the cooler temperatures, so that's one factor for them. The food supply is slowing down, that's another factor, and so we're going to accelerate that. There's a queen cell there right at the bottom there. Can you see that right on the corner? So I'm just going to check that the queen's here before I go destroying that, in case it's supersedure. It's in the wrong place really for supersedure, but I'd rather that there was a functioning laying queen in here, and all that is eggs and grubs on this side, and this side there's a few. And these girls here, can you see this waggle dance again? Where's she gone? There you are, somebody's found some grub somewhere. There you are. Oh, there's the queen. Right, so we've got a queen. This one can lose that cell then, and we'll see whether there was anything in it. I think there was the startings of something in there, but we're not going to let them have that choice. And this is why it is advisable, although not... Oh, lovely slab of brood there waiting to be hatched. It's not essential to come in at this time of year, but you know, if you spot a queen cell like that, you know, it could have been a supersedure cell. Next week we'll find out whether they were trying to do it. Yeah, so this is all pollen now. So, job done on these. I think that was at the back anyway, wasn't it? Yeah. I think I'll split it from the first one back like I normally do. So you can see all of these have been as good as gold all year, and now they're getting jumpy, so it is the time of year, I think. Robbing season and blah de blah de blah. Oh, you bugger. Yeah, they got all jumpy about that wasp that I just had there. I did it for you, ladies. No point pestering me. Right. Queen excluder back on. That's that. That's the least heavy out of all of them. The others seem to float to the top okay, but so I just poured the syrup in, but I'll do it the standard way. There we go. So next week's job, definitely next week's job will be to get this lot out. Whether we do the others at the other apiary, I don't know, but we'll definitely be getting these to drop down into the bottom box. And then I've got a lower lift cover to go on here as well, so we can go for that. And it keeps the temperature up inside there. I can't remember who that came off, whether it came off this one or not, but anyway. Yeah, I think this is all this activity around here is at sort of robbing pressure. Anyway, all 3 queens in there. Quite a nice visit, this one. Pretty much all of it on one video. There you go.